My name is Bonnie Orbison, and I'm a 16-year-old independent author, publisher, podcaster, graphic designer. Yeah.
Cool. You're an author.
I'm an author, yeah. I published one book already.
What's the
I
title of
finished
the
the
book?
second one. It's Follow Me. It's standing there with the translation.
Right. Well, everyone watching, be sure to go buy that book and give it a read then. So, what inspired you then to start this podcast?
It's funny because when I texted you what we're gonna talk about, and you said, yeah, but when everything started, I was like, how did it start? And I really didn't remember for 5 minutes. And but then I remembered. I was always like, do you remember the time when podcast wasn't like a trend? You know what? Do you remember that time?
Yeah.
On that time, I wanted to do a podcast already, and I had a vision of doing a woman empowering podcast, like interviewing women about being a woman, etc. And yeah, that faded away, and then all these podcasts came up with these women empowerments, and I was like, okay, maybe I should choose another topic that's not oversaturated. And then I don't know. I always had the idea. I even kept making guest lists who I want to interview. And it's funny because last August, I rediscovered one of these lists I've done like 5 years ago or something. And the top three I got actually to interview. And that was
Wow.
that was a really proud moment I had. So yeah, it was always in my mind to do a podcast.
So it's kind of like a childhood dream for you then, I guess.
Yeah.
So you mentioned female empowerment, and then you mentioned that you chose another topic. So what's your arena? What's the theme of your podcast, and what do you guys discuss?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Bonnie's Legends, as I wanted to choose a name where I can interview everybody I want to interview. So I chose Legends. I don't actually know why, but I think it's just a term we use not that often to like describe people we admire. We say like, oh, it's my idol or my role model, but we don't say it's a legend, you know? And so, yeah, I just wanted to interview people I admire and I'm proud of and talk with them about how they got this legend. And yeah, in these past months, it kind of got into the niche independent musicians. Although that's not the niche I wanted to pick. I didn't want to have any niche, but yeah, that's now my niche at the moment.
That's very cool and inspiring that you're interviewing people who you're inspired by, I guess.
Yeah.
Very unique idea. Not heard that one before. So I cannot read my own handwriting. I have a list of questions there. And I wrote down so you know when you're writing stuff and you write so fast that
and you're in the flow and then you have to read it. Yeah.
So what has been the most exciting episode for you then, or the craziest episode that you've ever recorded on your podcast?
The craziest of how it came, or like where I was most excited of?
Both.
Okay.
Go for it.
So the most exciting one was interviewing Josephine de la Beaume for season 2. Yeah, Josephine is my legend. And I asked her, even just like getting the honor of interviewing her, as she's so big to me, was like really huge. And I never told you that, but I interviewed her around 7 p.m. And on the day when I woke up until I had the interview, I was just like, Josephine. I was going crazy and I was so nervous and was like, oh my God, what if I forget my questions if I just look at her, you know? I think if you listen to the episode, you see how much I like fancy her. Yeah, I think that was the most exciting episode I had. And then the craziest was with Lindy V. Müller Westernhagen. And she is a scriptwriter. Now she's a scriptwriter. She was a musician. She's still a musician, but she's now mainly a scriptwriter. And I interviewed her, and I discovered her through her husband. Her husband is, for me, one of the greatest musicians Germany ever brought of, Marius Melvesternhang. And I interviewed her, and he interrupted the interview and came in and talked to her. And then she was like, "Oh, Bonnie, do you want to meet Marius?" And I was like, You can still listen to it. We talked some wise in German because he's German, but that was the craziest. My hands were shaking afterwards.
That's insane. I really get what you mean when you have that exciting interview. And that's me, every interview I have. On the day of the interview, I spend the whole day thinking about it until that moment when it's done. So going back to a book then, what inspired that? I'm curious now.
My books?
Yeah.
This one, Follow Me, got inspired by, I don't know, childhood jealousy. You know, when you have your first crush on someone and he has, I don't know, a girlfriend, and you're like, "Oh, I'm jealous of him," you know, or her. And then I don't know. Yeah, that was the main reason. And then, I was also heavily influenced by my brothers. My brother broke up with his girlfriend. My brother is 14 years older, and he broke up with his girlfriend around that time. And it's a breakup novel. And I think that says a lot about the heavy influence of that breakup.
That it does. So you're a podcaster, you're a writer, you're several things. I'm getting very much writing related vibes from you. What do you want to be in the future? What's like your dream career path?
I want to have my own publishing company, and I want to also publish other authors and give young authors the opportunity I had to create for my own. So yeah, that's, I think, my main dream goal.
Okay. So was publishing then quite a difficult journey for you?
Yeah, I mean, even just first you have to figure out what kind of publishing you want, if you want to be independent or traditionally published. And then I was first like, I want to get traditionally published like every author, you know. And then you make, I don't know, then you're hunting all these publishers. And I was ready to sign a contract with a publishing company, but I did not, and decided to independent publish. Yeah. So just making all these experiences, I want to offer, like, I don't know, it shaped me in a lot of ways. I would not be the same author if I wouldn't have gone through these experiences. But sometimes you wish a lot of young people, especially when I was there 13, 14, 15, shouldn't go through that same thing, and maybe have somebody who's like, "Hey, I'm here. I can help you."
I'm also a writer. I've been working on a novel for a very long time now. I'm a very lazy writer. I just put that out there. So I take my time.
Fine. I'm a lazy writer as well if I don't have an idea.
But I know when I was looking at the different publishing schemes that independent is usually quite frowned upon. So what's your perspective on that, having published independently and having sort of dabbled in the traditional? What are your thoughts about those?
Yeah. Well, I guess if you have a good publisher and he's paying you for the book and you don't have to pay to him to publish it, it's traditionally published is always a good idea. But I'm quite a loner. And I like to do stuff on my own, like do it yourself, you know. I like to have full creativity over how the manuscript is looking, like how the people, what freebies will be included, like if there be illustrations in the book, etc., and how the font is looking like, and all that stuff, as my graphic designer is coming out of me. And then I think if you want to have full creativity, it's worth it. And then, I mean, what I experienced from my experiences of traditional publishers is that nowadays it's really hard to find a publisher who gives you, I mean, it can be, the publishing house can be so huge, but it's actually you have to still do all the stuff and don't have maybe the entire creativity or like decision making of how they even rewrite your script sometimes. So it's really weird. And then you have to, I don't know, do the own marketing stuff. And you're like, why did I even go to a traditional publisher? So I definitely think, you should independent publish. If you say it's yours and you really like, I mean, there are a lot of steps and you need to, I I don't know, you need to edit a lot. You needed to edit on yourself. You need to format the script. You need to upload it. I mean, I choose Kindle Direct Publishing with Amazon, what's maybe not the best idea, but it's the easiest way. And yeah, it's great, especially if you just want to see if you can build up an audience, you know what I mean? So that's why I did actually publish Follow Me. I just wanted to know if I can make it, you know.
Yeah, on your own, that makes complete sense. And I get what you're saying with wanting to have that control over the creative process, because it is kind of your baby, and you've got something in your mind's eye, and for someone else to come and change that is, I guess it kills the vibe. It really does. So I totally get that. I guess speaking of creative processes, then what is the future of the podcast? What's the dream? What's the aim?
Oh, you mean like how I imagine Bonnie's Legends will look like in the future?
Yeah. Where do you want it to go?
Well, I definitely want to do a season 4. I think it's still going to be virtual, as I'm starting next week with recording the episodes. But yeah, I want to do a season 4 with some legends I really admire, and like, I don't know, chasing them to really get them on the podcast, and not like being, okay, they don't reply, so I choose another one. And then hopefully when I'm moving out of Germany, hopefully then like in person, you know, like going to their home and actually being in that place, and then they feel more comfortable as well talking about their life and career. And then just recently I launched Bonnie's Legends Live. So Bonnie's Legends Live is going to be it's the extension of the podcast, and it's a host for live events, still virtual. Maybe the dream is big that we have a location where musicians come in, or authors come in and music perform or read out of the books. And yeah, the first show is going to launch August 20th. Yeah.
Looking forward to the day. I might virtually pop along and join in the fun then.
Thank you.
So you've mentioned about it's interesting that you brought up the topic of visiting people live, because I was actually gonna address that in this question that I couldn't read earlier. Have you ever done a live kind of discussion before?
Yeah, I've done one. I interviewed the now ex-girlfriend of my brother when she was here in Germany and visited me. And we've talked about Friends, and she was actually we were both sitting on my bed. We talked about the episode. That was my first in-person episode. And then I've done another one, but I don't remember it. Let me think.
I was going to ask, what's it like then, having done one in person and several online? How do you find the difference? What are like the pros and cons in your opinion?
I think you're way more excited if you're meeting them in person, especially when I'm coming back to the Josephine de la Bombe episode. I think I would have been way more nervous if I would have met her. And I don't know, I'm kind of grateful for doing it virtually as well, as, you know, sometimes the people, well, I recognize that the podcast I'm listening to at the moment, it's the Fader podcast of Mark Ronson. And they started doing the episodes virtually, and now they're traveling around the world and going to their homes, of the guests' homes, and interviewing them. And I'm like, that seems quite stressful, if I'm honest. And so yeah, but it's still my dream to do it like one season in person. But I think it will be then, you know, like I won't have the full range of people I have now virtually.
Yeah. I get that, because I also do a lot of interviewing, and I realized the other day that when you're going places, it takes more time, and
and you have to like transport your entire equipment. You're like, okay.
Yeah. So then you can't interview as many people, whereas here I can just sit on Zoom all day and, you know, call people in the waiting room and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is everything. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure having you on.